Jeremiah Boucher, a commercial real estate investor with over 20 years experience. This show is designed to help you build your business, become a better real estate investor, and help you see opportunities that will keep you ahead of the competition. This is Finding Your Edge. And I think that's what we all have in common here, and is that we control our own destiny. Right, we didn't want to put up with the man or some capital raising partner, one person, right, Marty? I think the big thing is we don't want to answer to anybody, right? Yes. And that's you're with us on that. Yes. So, and we like to move fast. We want to make decisions and adapt, but that's our edge in the market too, right? We're not a big corporate juggernaut where we have to get a committee or a board to tell us what to do.
Nimble,
right? Yeah, and then prove that we have a track record where community banks, local banks, they'll do business with us. Our investors are typically friends, associates. We meet them through trade groups like this. So for me, that's exactly why I did manufactured housing to start, and then I went into self-storage. And then I know you were from the apartment institutional world, where you had half. 50 basis points make or break a deal, and that could be $5 million in value. So, you guys, you want to speak to that, I guess, in terms of transitioning from institutional to the alternative kind of value add world?
Absolutely. So it started off, I helped a good friend of mine built an organization called Community Realty Partners. They're one of the predominant, well-known social impact investment groups in multifamily. They, bought 10,000 units. I joined back when they had 2,000 units. And I led acquisitions up to about 4,000 or 5,000 units, and I launched Elevate Commercial thereafter. And when I launched Elevate Commercial, I saw how tight the margins were in institution-sized multifamily. And at the same time, we talk about operations. I meet Jeremiah at Scott's event, and Jeremiah's, we're discussing his operations and inefficiencies. And I was like, damn, if it's that inefficient in manufactured housing, then I need to jump in this industry. And so I partnered with 2 deals with Jeremiah. And when you talk about raising money, going back to your first question, when I was at Community, I raised money because I leveraged the name, right? And I built an investor pool like these, helping acquire and operate $30 million, $40 million properties. And what I didn't own had a very small interest, but I was able to leverage that. Just like you're working with Jeremiah, you could leverage that. And then when I partnered with Jeremiah to a different industry, asset class, I leverage, hey, my friend, I told everyone he's the best at finding off-market deals in the U.S. And that's all I said, manufactured housing. And I'm going to operate. Okay, D can operate. This guy's the best at finding these deals. He doesn't quite know manufactured housing, but he'll figure it out. And I was able to leverage that into 2 deals. And then I built a platform around it. And so that was my way of building investor confidence. So my investors came because I was able to leverage relationships that were partners in the deal and say, hey, this person has this track record. This is what I do well. Everyone knows me as Demetre's all about operations, and he's going to grind it out. He's going to create opportunities, and he knows how to extract value. That's been known for all my investor pool from day one. And then it's just finding the right assets, the right vehicle to drive.
And that's like the common theme with all of us, right? It's just driving value, finding value, and fucking persistence. And I was the best. I was the best in the country to find deals. They're like, I think
still are.
It's getting harder running the business, but and identifying opportunities before everyone else, right? Being ahead of things before the big guys get in there. Absolutely. I get 2 things I want to know. Like, I always like to get to know, like, where do you get your drive from? And then secondly, like, what was the lowest times in your life, and then how did you get yourself out of it?
I guess I'll take the second one, because that comes to mind. The lowest time in my life, I didn't really get a chance to really talk about my background too much, and I don't want to take up too much time on that. But I had no dad growing up. My mom had addictions. I was raised by my grandfather, who was only able to do so much on a $1,500 pension. I was in shit school districts, friends that we were getting in a lot of trouble. Drinking at 14, 15. The lowest point was jail. That was the lowest point.
Do you remember a moment?
Yeah, I do. So don't want to do any spoiler alerts about my book, but I'm going to go ahead and just throw that out. Throw this one line out there. So I'm in jail. I'm a general population, and I was in a car with 3 other guys with a bunch of stolen stereo equipment, and nobody talked.
How old were you?
I was 18. I just turned 18. Yep. I just turned 18. And we were going through the neighborhood. guy out, the security guy came by, the guy driving the car shut the headlights off like an idiot. They turned back around. We get lost in suburbia hell. He was flying through the neighborhood trying to get out of there, and all of a sudden cops pull up, and there was a bunch of stereo equipment in the car. And this was a low point. Nobody talked. Those three got bailed out. My mother at the time, she had no money to bail me out. So I got stuck in general population. It was only for a few days, but it was overcrowded. There was no pod per se.
In Miami?
This was actually in Atlanta. I was in Atlanta. I was living in Atlanta for a few years before I came back to South Florida. And I was in kind of where you would eat, like the benches that you would eat. Everybody had sleeping bags or, just cots, little cots. And I mean, it was overcrowded. Literally, you're sleeping like this and everybody's all over the floor. And after a couple of days, you start talking to people there. And this old guy, they named over the announcement, they say to you, so-and-so bag and baggage means somebody bailed you out, you get to go. So I was on probation for underage drinking, like 3 of them in a 4-week period. Yeah, that wasn't enough to say I had a problem. So if you're on probation and then you get arrested, they hold you until your court date. So they didn't know because it was a different county that I was under probation on. So I got lucky, but I'm like, somebody's got to bail me out because if they find out, I'm stuck here for months, and that's who knows what would happen. So my mother got the money, bailed me out, and they said, Jared Elmar, and then they paused. And I remember, I was like, fuck, they're looking in the system. I'm not getting out of here. And they said bag and baggage. I'm like, all right. So I go back around and look at this guy grabs me by my shoulder, and I'm like, I'm getting in a fight. I'm about to walk out here. And he's an older guy, probably 68 years old, 70 years old. And he says, don't come back here. You don't belong here. And it was that little memorable moment where I'm like, okay, this is a bottom for me. And this guy just reminded me. And that was a turning point.
Did you know it in that moment, or do you have to look back?
No.
You look back on that moment.
I stopped getting into trouble after that.
Yeah.
Now, maybe it's just a fear of being in jail, but I remember that guy.
Yeah.
I remember exactly what he looked like. And that changed things for me. That was my low point.
That's deep. Yeah, that's deep.
What about you?
That's deep. So my story goes back to Fresno. I was 6 years old. I would go back and forth to my mom's house and my dad's house. He lived in Palmdale, and my mom was on welfare. And so I was like, I'm going to go to the store and buy a candy bar. And so I had to walk to the store across the street. It's a Save Mart on Chestnut Avenue, and I had a little food stamp. And so I walked in the store and got to the register at a candy bar. The lady was like, you can't buy a candy bar with food stamp at the time. I didn't know better. And she's like, you're just a poor kid. You don't have the money, so put it back. And that was like the lowest point in my life because I feel so degraded at 6 years old. And I had to walk back home with no fucking candy, right? And it was Twix, my favorite candy buddy, So that experience, when I said I was a young child and I had anger, I turned that into sports. So when I played football, I said, everybody I played against was that lady at the store, and I will light their asses up, right? And I used, but I used that, Bobby Boucher. You can do it. But I was able to utilize that drive and that hunger to use sports as a platform and education as a platform to get to college. And then when I got to college, Cal Poly, I got exposed to business. So I have to thank that lady for giving me the drive, the extra drive, because of how she talked to me, made me driven as a child.
When the anger kicked in, was it in that second?
It was that moment. It was that, but it was also, I was going back and forth to my mom's and dad's house. And so you live in those situations, you're kind of confused. Like, wait a minute, I'm going here. Next week I'm going there. Wait, where do I live? Right. And so as a child, you have no money. Then when you're living these environments. And then when I moved to my dad's house, I moved to a small town with my dad. We would have to, after school, I would go to work with my dad, his janitor at the time, and we would clean my own classrooms. And so it was like, so my dad used to tell me, hey, this is why you go to school. Do you want to clean toilets? This is why you're going to go to school. This is why you're going to play sports. And it was a mission. I knew I was going to play college sports as a 6-year-old. It was already like, this is your path. This is your path as a 6-year-old. It was like a machine. I was already set up and programmed to be zero hyper-focused on playing sports and getting a college education. And my dad said, get to college and then from there you'll figure things out, but just get there. Just get on campus. The whole goal is get on campus. And then from there, opportunity came, real estate.
You're like, chill now, man. Got like super quiet. Teddy bear. Or was it?
Yeah, it was over time. Over time, I was able to sit back and reflect, right? Because once I got to college, it was like, okay, I made it. That this is where I'm supposed to be. And then from there, opportunities came. And so at that point, it was like, I don't need to be aggressive. I'm there now. Like I don't have to. I'm still driven. Like I'm driven in different ways. Where I'm driven, we buy a property. How fast do they drive that value up? And I'm like super focused on it to a point where you're building investor relations and say communication. I was so driven, I neglected investor communication. And now we're building a whole platform around it because I was so driven on production. So now we're building a team around what I like to do and focus on, but also the other areas of the business that help you grow and really expand your business.
And Marty, you got lows, man? Anything like
You got lows, Marty.
Yeah.
You had such a charmed life.
I'm sure we all do.
Right. No, I think what for me it was like slightly diagnosed, but I have dyslexia. And so, always being in the slow classes, even feeling like I was like not supposed to be there.
I feel you.
Right? I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. But like I would score where I should be there. And so and I think, all of us, that's like the great thing is like the urgency I think we all have. I think there is an urgency, and I asked you that when I first met you, Jeremy. I'm like, why do we have this urgency? I always ask that.
Fair. Yeah, that's
right?
fair.
What is it? And I think it's because for me it was just like proving that third grade teacher wrong, that she goes, hey, don't even bother taking the test. Because if you got 100, you'd be able to like go and get some sort of prize or something. And I was like, hey, I never got to do the test. She goes, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get the 100. So I was like, okay. And I just remember that. So I think it's like it's prove everybody wrong and also prove that, hey, you said if you think you can, then you should, right? And my intent is good too. So there's a lot of people that do really well, but their intent's not good. My intent's good, so I want to prove those people wrong and also do it the right way.
I love it.
Love it. That's awesome. What about you, Tim?
Let's touch on your low points.
I'll say
Just show us your fucking picture on it. Let's talk about you.
You've seen them.
We're going to dedicate the rest of the 4 hours to your lows. Let's do this.
We'll get it. We'll breeze through this.
I lived through your low points.
Yeah. We'll make it quick. Yeah. So I guess I had to go through the lows, similar to your jail story. But I had my own jail story, and but the main thing was like having a little success. So I thought that it wasn't material things, but I thought, fuck this. Life's about pleasure, and growing up in Vegas, that's a problem, right? So when there's a lot of money comes your way as a young kid in your early 20s, I'm going to maximize that. And I had a very short-term view of my life. So I thought it was, week by week, year by year. And when athletics didn't work out for me, I was pretty disappointed with things because I think deep down, I love the rush. I love, that's what I love about the deal. I love the uncertainty, the pressure, the intensity. And when I lost that and I didn't know what I was going to do as a man, it was really tricky because, I had a lot of energy like you, Marty, but I was a fucking firecracker, like all over the place. I didn't know where, like gasoline, one thing, get me started on one thing and I couldn't slow down. So combine that with, a guy with a lot of energy, with no purpose, and pretty angry about, having a chip on your shoulder just about, same way, Marty, just like not tall enough, not fast enough, just not the best, that it really got me to have a chip on my shoulder. But then a part of me was like, I was disillusioned by the whole game because I didn't know, what am I going to put my energy into? And my energy, I was like, fucking office, fuck this. Like, I don't want to work for somebody else. And I didn't know real estate was an avenue where you could compete. You could actually control your destiny. You don't have to count on anyone else to get you an in. You can create your own opportunity. So my whole low around that whole point was just like, so I was in college. I fucking made a lot of money. Well, I made like 70 grand or 100 grand. And to me, that was like a lot of money at the time. I pretty much pulled 10 grand out, went to Rum Jungle, and then actually I was living in Tim's spare room or like on his couch or basically just squatting at his house. And then I exhausted for 4 days. I pretty much, after that, I didn't go home, or I don't know what I did for 4 days. So I was fucking out there, you know? So at the end of the day, I woke up, my face on the floor, you know, with exhausted, every pleasure out of my body. And I woke up and I'm like, and I just remember this, like waking up with my face on the fucking carpet and somebody in the bed and 2 people around in the room. And I don't know who the fuck they were. And I go, oh man, like, I'm like, this one I think is it. Like this is like the worst I've ever felt in my life. And all I could hear was my mother, you know, and I was like, it's like, you're so much better than that. And she was blowing me up and I kept putting her off and I was avoiding my problems. I was avoiding how I felt. I was avoiding my fucking, just the pain and just the anger around everything. And then she's like, you know, let's go out to breakfast. So I had to go out to breakfast with her across from the UNLV. And she's just like, it wasn't even anything she said. She just looked at me with disgust. And then that to me was like, fuck, like I fucking let her down. I'm letting myself down because she was like, you got so much potential and you're fucking it away. And she's just like, it wasn't beyond like, you need to do this. It was like pity, you know? So then it was like a part of me, it didn't all work out right after that, but it just clicked in my head. I go, all right, motherfucker. Like this isn't what your life's all about, right? It's like, I'm gonna turn this thing around and I don't care. And it wasn't about being better than someone. It wasn't about material shit. It wasn't about getting girls. It wasn't none of that. It was about, you know, I'm not a victim. I control my own life. If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna either make it on my own or I'm gonna bury myself in the ground, but I'm gonna do it on my terms. No one else is gonna do it for me. So that was like the game changer where now, and then looking at my dad, you know, where in the New England, you know, Catholic, Irish, never said, you know, good job your whole life, you know, and you're like, okay, you know, it's like, as a kid, you're like always trying to earn your dad's like approval. So I said, all right, I'm gonna, I don't know, maybe it's competitive in me, but I'm gonna prove to him and I'm gonna prove everyone else that I can make it. So I think that combined, you know, that with a lot of energy and just caffeine. For more information on commercial real estate investing, go to patriotholdings.com. Thanks for listening to Finding Your Edge.